All right, yeah. Let's transition now into the Death of Slim Shady, right?
Sure.
So the funny thing is, as you mentioned, concept album, right? I'll never forget when the promotional teaser, the first one came out, right, which is this sort of unsolved mysteries kind of news reporting, right? I did mention on Facebook this should be a concept album, and surprise, surprise, it actually was, right? And I just got that, I just got the gist of it, of the title and what the idea of that trailer was, right? So essentially, what this is, right? It is a concept album, as you said, right? But basically, it involves, well, the death of Slim Shady, right? Which is, of course, the alter ego of Eminem, right? AKA Marshall Mathers, right? This, of course, is a reference to his, iconic debut album, the Slim Shady LP.
Right.
Still one of my favorite records and whatnot, right? And what I find really interesting here now is that you would think, oh, should it be, should the title be, should the title reference, probably still his most controversial work to date, which is the Marshall Mathers LP. But I'll say no, because we already had a sequel to that, and that's sort of attempted to kind of cross correct certain aspects, certain you know notorious aspects of that record, but it also showed like just real genuine growth from Eminem himself, right? Because yeah, as I said with my review of that, yeah, he is, he's grown up now. Sorry, he's older now. So the whole shock rap thing, he could still do that in his sleep, but he's not gonna have the same effect. It's not gonna have the same effect as that album did back in 2000, right? And throughout his career, he has pretty much proven that he doesn't need shock rap to get his point across, right? But that is just the thing that he's skilled at. It's just one aspect of him. It's just one part of his identity that hate it or love it. That's just a part of him, right? But this one here, though, this really fascinated me. Just the idea of one, a concept album, and two, pretty much him saying, oh, this is pretty much the end of Slim Shady, right?
Correct.
Pretty much framing him in our times, right, where, and it makes sense too, and it's very like bold and daring for a guy like him to do this, right?
I get what you try to go for, and as I said, what I said with Eminem to me kind of reached the end of his kind of course. He run his course as a rapper in a sense. Because my attitude about him was always, you kind of need to mature and move on, or do something to reach a point where he can move on, which is AKA do his 444. And with this album, it feels like he kind of have his cake and eat it too in a sense, right? Because them first four or so tracks so almost deliberately rage baity and out of pocket. I was
Yeah.
like, all right, what are you trying to do here? Okay, you
Nah,
mentioned
I will tell you, it's purposeful. It's done
exactly.
intentionally
But
to
at the same time, he still want to like get the jokes out there. Like he want to get the jokes out, whatever. Is that stuff? But it's him. Like I get it. And how much time you go mention Caitlyn Jenner, and you know how much time you go mention Christopher Reeve. That's a whole thing, and so on and so forth, right? And then it pivots into what I think is the best track, or the one track that genuinely works, which is the double track with him rapping against himself. That track, shit was
or
was
well, Guilty Conscience too.
Guilty
I'll talk
Conscience
about
too.
that.
Guilty
Yes,
Conscience too.
yes.
Right, right, right.
That is hands down the best track on
I
this
do best track, and
album.
I see
Yeah.
that is the pivot track effectively. And
Mm.
then he gets into the self-reflexive stuff, the apology stuff, and that's where it becomes 444 effectively. Like, all right, I get where you're coming from. I can see people making commentary about this. I think this would have more discourse if it wasn't for the Donald Trump thing, to be honest. Um, in terms of like, oh, you hear what Eminem do, you hear the album, but it didn't feel immature. Like I get what you're going for, right? And so on and so forth. So I didn't hate any of this, as it was. But yeah, I really want to have his cake and eat it too, because you got have a set of people like Way Boy Eminem back boy, look, he catching them good woke people, but that's not what the album about. And it going both ways now. Because yeah, them first four tracks you could just listen to them in isolation and be like, yeah boy, that's real out of pocket, and yeah, he calling out them people for saying X, Y, and Z, and with his political correctness, blah 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 blah, and all of that nonsense stuff. So here's that. I don't know. It feel like yeah, you have a cake and eat it too, because you try to like how much time you go mention trans people, or how much time you go mention X, Y, and Z about this one, that and the other. I was like, look, I don't expect you to say something like this, but whatever. I don't wait for other discourse on this, but how I feel about it is that it just deliberately reach BT, but it have a purpose, but it don't really work as the way he think it intended. So I don't know how I feel about it. But from a musical standpoint, it's one of the strong albums in a long time. Like I enjoy the tracks, like especially um um King Part Two now, Guilty Conscience Two. By the way, Guilty Conscience is based on that track with Dr. Dre, right? That is Part Two, right?
Yeah. But
Right,
the
right, right,
the
right.
weird thing about it is that Dre okay, let me look it up
I
quickly.
thought even that just bring back
So
Dr.
like
Dre for
like
that.
Dre, yeah, Dre is not involved at all with the beat at all. And
Yeah.
it doesn't
No, but
involve
like I
Dre.
thought Dre would have come back lyrically
Yeah,
with it.
me too. Yeah, yeah, and it
Yes.
doesn't involve the good side, bad side thing. It's just
Well,
this is
it's him.
his
I mean, I
alter
get it,
ego
eh? I get it.
and
It's
Slim.
him and
Well, it's
Eminem.
M
Yeah,
and
Slim
Slim.
and
Yeah.
Eminem
Mm.
back and forth. So I get that, but I thought Dr. Dre would have a part in it, or they would have played with it in some interesting way. I don't know. So
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah, 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 agreed. So just before I forget, right, as I get into my thoughts, right, which I didn't write down anything, so just going off the cuff here. Forgive me, right?
Yeah.
So for me, right, you know, it's a good thing you're talking about 444, right? So this is actually his 12th album.
Yep.
So I wonder now if M have it in him to put out a 13th album, wink wink, which is like what G did with
Right.
444, right? I don't know, but I guess you'll see, right? Because yeah, there are hints of this could be the last one. But me personally, I don't think it will be the last one. I think that he have it in him to put out one more. It's just a
Yeah.
question of what it'll be about, right? But as a concept, I think that this is brilliant, Tread, where
Yeah.
it's just pretty much him kind of finding his spot in his relevance, if you will, exploring his relevance in the 2020s, right?
Right.
Where unfortunately his over will always be criticized, right? This is
Of
just
course.
something
Right.
that he has cultivated for 2 decades now. This is just
Right.
something that he has already accepted, right? There's no turning back from that. It just is what it is, right? For every person who love Mockingbird, there'll always be somebody who will say, "Oh, but he did Kim." You know what I mean?
Right.
So you should cancel him, right? And this is what I feel like this is
Look,
to me.
this is
This is
somebody.
what he was exploring on this record, right?
Yeah, no, I like his goofy stuff, because again, that to me is the whole point of Eminem. Like back then, remember, people. It's not like people was like accepting of Eminem or anything like that. His by definition was to be the counterculture, like shock value guy. That he's the shock
Yeah,
jock.
yeah.
Right? That's what it was. That's the
Mhm.
premise. And that's his whole premise and personality, especially the Slim Shady side. The problem is that it's a joke that stopped being a funny or relevant in a long time ago. That's the kind of the issue. So you had to do something with the music and make it work. And that he hasn't done that, in my humble opinion, for a long time. As I said, musically, I think this really works, but it's how people are going to react it as it is now, how whether or
Yeah.
not you're going to accept that. So that's how I feel about it. But I get what he was going for. Like I get it. Yeah,
Me,
well,
me too, me too. Yeah, and speaking of discourse, I will not be surprised after I literally speak these words into existence. There'll be, a needle drop or a spectrum pulse or a RTV that'll come and say, this album really isn't as good as you think it is, and this is why. And then I'll watch it and be like, you're right. But
right, right, right.
I want to hold on to this because I believe this to be very true. Um, this is his best record since MMLP2.
I
But that
think so.
really is not seen a lot though,
Yeah, I
because
think so too.
I
Yeah,
will not put it up there with, right now the Holy Trilogy the Holy Trinity of records that he have, which is Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, and the Eminem Show. Those three
right.
are still top tier in my opinion,
Yeah,
right?
and
Great
this
trilogy.
is coming from somebody who I actually like Rain Man. Like again, as
Me
silly as
too.
ridiculous,
I love
as silly
Rain
and
Man.
ridiculous it is, to me that's the point. It's just him being as shocking as possible.
Yeah.
And being big.
and, and,
I
and
even
then
like
being self-aware about like I just
exactly.
always love how it ends. I sing a whole sung a whole song and I even say shit. Like
Yeah.
that's the point.
Even I'm the kind of guy who even like fuck, right? I even like fuck. Fuck's so dumb. It is
Oh
so dumb that you just can't help but laugh from it. It's borderline. I forget the term for it, JS humor, right? Is that what it is? It's so dotish that I can't help but laugh about it now. It's like, all right, well, he just the class clown. And what I'll say is like it's the same problem with how the world just evolved in a different way, and whether or not you accept that or not. And I know you mentioned Dave Chappelle, but it's the same thing. It's Dave Chappelle just didn't want to evolve in a direction, so now the world kind of outpacing that way, but it'll still have people who cater to you, and it's a total generational thing. Like there's, like I admit that because you constantly mentioning Gen Z, constantly mentioning trans people, constantly mentioning things, and it's up to you to entertain. Is whether or not you're entertaining what you're trying to go for or not. So that way I could see a lot of people not caring for it. I get what you're going for. I just don't think he stick the landing as well as he could. So that's just my last point on that.
yeah. No, well, I mean, you can interject with my thoughts, right? Well, when I speak here, right?
Right.
So concept wise, right? I think the concept works, right? It's
Yeah.
just basically Slim Shady, as in the dark alter ego, terrorizing Eminem and pretty much like threatening to kill him. And yeah, it is going basically on this anti-woke, anti-PC spree, right? Where they
Right,
just
right.
putting out just a slew of tracks which is just meant to like offend, well, the LGBTQ
Everybody.
community, everybody, quadriplegics, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, right? He just
He had a
goes
joke about
all out, right?
he had a deaf joke like God, but you're really doing this?
Plus
Stuff with
the the
Christopher
the
Reeve. Oh God.
I'll get to Christopher Reeve, right? But the
Yeah, but
one that he mentioned about short people in Guilty
right,
Conscious 2, when I hear that real crack up, dog.
right,
That was so funny.
right.
It corny, yeah, but it's funny.
I thought of trans stuff. He had a line man, bitch. You're like, all right,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, all right,
Yeah, yeah. I think that's on the first song, Habits, if I'm not mistaken, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So concept, it makes sense, right? And I do like that you have Guilty Conscious too, where they confront each other and whatnot, right? But the beauty, without spoiling much though, is that they are one and the same. I
right,
love just that second half of Guilty Conscious too, where you realize, oh, this is why Slim Shady become this this heat spewing, if this fire breathing dragon, if you will, it's
right.
because of a team that, Eminem has been exploring, I would say from the mid 2000s upward.
Yeah.
Yeah, addiction to, pills and whatnot, right?
Well,
He's
right.
fueled that
He
and
does
alcohol.
address. Yeah, he address addiction and he addresses
Yes.
abuse. Like that's the whole
Mhm.
thing. Like it's just part of that psychology. It's a very male psychology thing about
Yes.
why all of these men are the way they are. And it's sorry
Yeah.
to say it's their own lives, not the best, especially as kids and as
Yeah.
teenagers. That all that stuff, right? So they
Yeah.
play
But
into
that
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 really well.
Yeah, but that's a crucial moment though, with them pretty much saying, "Oh, I fueled this demon inside of me. I did
Yeah,
this. This is the reason why Slim blew up the way he did." And oh, well, Slim was, it's basically the Tyler Durden thing now. Tyler Durden
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
supposed to be, this purest representation of who I really am, but it's the darker element in me, and because I fueled it so much, it just becomes this force to be reckoned with, right? And yeah, it ends the way how it ends. I'm not gonna spoil it there, right? The issue that I have with the album itself, right? Because there's a tweet that M put out basically saying it's a concept album, so he pretty much telling the listeners you have to listen to it from top to bottom. Don't skip any
right,
tracks. It need
exactly.
to flow, right? I do like the flow of it, right? But I felt like after that moment, which I would say that to me, if we look at it as a movie, right? That Guilty Conscious 2 is like the end of the second act, right? The
Right.
third act though is where I felt the album kind of stumbles now, because you kind of
Yeah,
address the problem. So now it's like, okay, what else do I have to say here? And while
yeah.
I
So
do
the
like
stuff, the stuff.
what's that?
Yeah,
While I do like the set of tracks that show up in the end, like on the third act, I have no problem with it. I just felt like compared to the first two acts, where it just kind of falters a little bit, right?
well,
Like you had a
this is
strong foundation early on, and then after the end, the second act is just like, all right, you know what I mean? It's again, it's like you're watching a movie going real good, but the third act don't work because it's not as strong as the first two.
right.
That's
And
the issue I have with this record.
this is kind of the core problem with this
Uh,
kind of when you appeal to satire. Well, because it's not a kind of satire in itself, but it's people I could see people misinterpreting uh what Eminem trying to go for. Because those four tracks are the tracks that's the most entertaining, I would argue. Even though they're the
yes.
most shocking and the most thing, they're the better tracks. Now the later tracks is solid stuff, like the stuff with the stuff about his daughter and the drug stuff. I thought that was
Hmm.
great. He had one.
That's the third act stuff, which I'll get into.
Right,
But you're
exactly.
right. Hmm.
Yeah, and all of that stuff don't really come true as well or as strong as it is. And again, it's how people will misinterpret Rick and Morty or
Oh,
misinterpret again. You mentioned Fight Club. They
yeah,
just kind of take the wrong take from it. So I can
yeah,
see his fans just pulling up the only the early stuff and saying, no, well, like, this is the album. This is what I'm kind of
yeah.
going for. And I
And
know that is not what
what I mean, folks, is that is the story. Like I'm looking at it as a story. I'm a concept album, right?
yeah,
I'm taking it as a story being told. And to me, it's almost like if the story ends at that with Guilty Conscience 2, and then everything else is just like this long denouement of
exactly.
M trying to right his wrongs, kind of. But I'll address that in a bit, right?
But
But it just it
that's the part
doesn't
of the
fit
album.
as
That's the part
well
of the album you
as
focus on.
first two. Sorry, what?
Yeah, that's the part of the argument. I think was the real focus. This is the 444 part of it, as they say there.
Yes. Hmm.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
I think it was all right, but because the first stuff so shocking, and that is what people it have a whole chunk of them fans who just want that. And it's no different from, like, again, you mentioned Fight Club or Tyler Durden, where it just caters to that nascent adolescence of us. Look, getting back at them thing. The thing. And I just, like, for me personally, I think it's just genuinely funny on its own right. But at the same time, it's like, no, that's not what we're going for. Like, you're not supposed
Mhm.
to pull from that. That is the intention. Whatever.
Yeah,
I really,
and to be fair, I think that listeners are smart to know this.
right,
That's why M keeps stressing is a concept album for
right,
concept
right.
album. So, but there might be some idiot who will say, "Oh, you see what
It's
he
debate.
say with brand new dance? You see what he's saying?" I'll talk about brand new
But
dance,
that's the
right? But yeah.
debate. That
Mhm.
is the debate, which is it have a lot of people who just may not understand that, right? They will just you'll see people just playing these tracks, or you'll see some TikTok or whatever to saying, boy, Eminem back, and dies. They just totally misread the situation. I'm not sure. We'll see. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
Eminem fans are. It's not like I don't think Eminem fans are idiots or anything like that. It's just
No.
it's an audience and it's clearly tapping into that. The thing is, a lot of people have a willful misinterpretation, especially in our political climate, or well, the American political climate. Um, feeding into that conceit. So I could see people willfully ignoring one part and then saying this is what it's supposed to be. You see this kind of media illiteracy all the time, right? You see it with movies all the time. You see it with TV shows all the time. Like everything involving the boys. Like I was like
Oh
quite
yes.
shocked to find out. I was quite shocked to find out that I have people who didn't like get that Homelander supposed to be the villain. Like what? You serious? But
What?
apparently there are people who like, oh well, the boys all of a sudden got woke. Like what? What are we
Oh
talking about?
Jesus Christ!
But it's that, right?
Where were you when the series premiered, bro? Like, come on.
Exactly right, so I don't know again. But as I say, we're living in this weird cyberpunk dystopia right now, where you're not sure how much of it is fake or just to get
Lol at cyberpunk. You get me with that
exactly.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, but we don't know how much of it is a fake discourse versus real discourse with all of this noise now, and
yeah,
what real opinions are. But you get my point, right?
yeah, yeah.
I can see people almost willfully misinterpret it. It's like Rick from Rick and Morty. There are people from Rick and Morty who think, yeah, Rick toxic behavior is like a good thing because look how smart he is. Like, yeah, that's not the point.
No, no,
But
no, no.
is that
Yeah.
media literacy issue. So we'll find out how
Hmm.
it feed off. Now, as I said, I don't know how this would play out because I didn't think that because of the Trump assassination stuff. Uh, I thought this would have run the discourse for the week though. Like, oh
Yeah.
right, everybody gonna be talking about Eminem because look how shocking, blah 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 blah.
You know,
And
like right now, I ain't seen nothing from Complex. I ain't seen nothing from Hip Hop
yeah,
DX. I ain't seen nothing
yeah,
yet.
yeah.
But later on this week, we'll see something
Right,
hopefully,
right.
right?
I
Yeah.
usually wait by around about. I think I'll wait about a week. Like about my rule out time is about 4 days. So it's like by Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll find out what discourse go pop up, or usually my usual spaces to make sense of this as fast as I can. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I feel about the album. Like, yeah,
All
go
right.
ahead, yeah,
Well, all right. So let's talking quickly about the album, right? So starts out pretty solid, right? They get the gist of it now with Slim Shady, pretty much threatening to take over M's life and whatnot, right?
right,
Habits is a solid way to kick things off. I
yeah,
actually dig the hook from White Gold. I think he is a signee to Shady Records, if I'm not mistaken. Also
right.
points for bringing in signees from the label.
Plus he bring back Bizarre Dread. What the hell?
Yes, yes, I'll get
Yeah,
the bazaar. I'll get the bazaar.
yeah,
We will get the bazaar, right? Slight spoiler, right?
yeah,
And you're getting the gist of it, right? This is Slim Shady here being Slim Shady, right? But at the same time, if you think about it carefully and you use your brain, you understand this is just M kind of poking fun. He's just pretty much talking about the hypocrisy of this whole cancel culture thing, this whole idea.
right,
But he does it in this really blunt, vulgar kind of way. But it kind of makes sense to it. Especially there's one in particular we see about how women will, do body, just, get body modifications, right? Fake tits and whatnot, right? And then when an ugly guy try to hit on them and they feel bad now, they want to cancel them out. I like that. That's a nice little it's a smart little call there, right? So it's M being as smart as, but he's making a point, right? But yes, in between that, there will be stuff that is designed to kind of trigger you and get you off, get you,
yeah.
off,
It's
off
very
balance.
rage
That's the
baity.
point.
Right, right, right.
Exactly. But it's just meant to kind of touch on the hypocrisy of it all. That's just it, right?
And to be
You're not
fair,
supposed to agree with everything
yeah,
they says,
and to
but
be
it's still
fair,
at the same time, like, all this really, like, this whole thing kind of just blown out of proportion. So
right.
to the point that a man like him or, Slim Shady don't really know what to make of it. So in his case, it's just to talk shit about it. That's the point.
No, to be fair, it could be in the same space as something like a deliberate, again, the deliberate provocative nature of it. It could be like something like how I was thinking about something like, say, Jojo Rabbit or Springtime for Hitler. You know, the idea is that, oh, this is the joke, this is what they're leaning in on, but I could see people misinterpreting it because it had a bunch of people who was very offended by Jojo Rabbit, but no, that is the whole point of Jojo Rabbit. you know, you get the point, right? Like I could see
Yeah, yeah.
people reading it like that, and that's how I am reading it. That's how I'm reading it as it is. So it's up to you. But you know, it's deliberately provocative. But at the same time, he enjoying it too much. It's like, you know, when a white person's in a movie saying nigga a little too much, like, hey, you know, what's going on here? You know, it's that.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, it's that.
Right. A track that I know will rub people off the wrong way, but that's kind of the point, is Brand New Dance.
Right.
According to Genius, I don't know if they're right or not. Apparently, this was a track that was supposed to be on Encore, but they left it all because at the time
Well,
that
right.
was when
They
Christopher
mentioned
Reeve
that. Yes,
died.
I think
Yeah,
so. They might, because Christopher Reeve died. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I think I think the bridge is the only new part that M
Right.
recorded for this, right? But I think the track is hilarious though. The beat is early 2000s shit, but that's the
Yep.
point, and it's just the hooves. That's all you say without spoiling. I think it's hilarious, right? But again, I can imagine people just misinterpret it and say, "Oh, this is so cringy," and "Oh, what is this?" Oh, like I would imagine, yeah, just a bunch of reviewers saying this is like the worst track of it out of it, but it's not meant to
I
be
don't
the
think it's the
worst
worst
track,
track, eh?
right?
But I don't think it's the worst track.
It's not, yeah. But
I already know what the worst track was when I heard it, and I heard it when I see. Well, we'll get to that.
oh,
But
we'll get to that, yeah. But the title makes a lot of sense. Brand New Dance, right? So the joke is, oh, we bringing up something that would have been funny back in like the early 2000s in 2024. That's the joke, right? And I think it
yeah,
works, right? Because of just how ridiculous it is, just how blatant it is, right? For me, I think that ends the first act. The second act for me starts off with evil. For me, this is where the hits come true, right? I
right.
love evil. I love the hook. You know, I'm so evil, so
Yeah.
evil. You know what I mean? And just
Hmm.
what he talking about makes sense. Lucifer part as
Yep.
well. I love that though. Um,
Yeah.
for me though, Antichrist though with
Great
Bizarre,
track.
holy shit
Yeah.
though, just
Yeah.
how
It's a great
catchy,
track.
just how catchy the hook is. Just the irreverent nature of it too, I love though. But when Bizarre coming in the end, right? First time I
Yeah.
heard it, I thought, oh, he just gonna close the song, and then they do that beat switch, that beat change it, and the man
Yeah.
just do a verse. I'm like, holy shit, Bizarre, Dread Bizarre, M, come
Yeah,
back
and if you
again,
want to get
yes.
into,
I love it.
you can't get more shock value than Bizarre.
Than
Bizarre's
Bizarre,
whole
yes,
thing
yes, yes.
is shock value now. So it's like, yes,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
good.
and he did well too, right? I even love Fuel featuring
Right.
Jidna, you know,
Yeah.
Jid
GID, yeah,
snap
yeah. GID
on
had a great track, yeah.
boy, he
Great
snap
opening
on
verse, yeah.
that verse the whole
Yeah, yeah.
shit, wow, right? And just the sentiment of it makes a lot of sense the way I'm pretty much saying, oh, you know, you think I run out of fuel? It's like, nope, I could keep going, and I could keep going. So yeah, he could go head to head with with Jid. That's nothing,
Yeah.
right? Road Rage is kind of a miss, kind of a miss for me though. Like I didn't really feel the hook that much, but I
Right.
get the vibe of what going on though and what he talking about. Basically, it's the South Park approach to, oh,
Right.
like in the first that's straight out of one of like one of the recent episodes that South Park put out. Oh, you
Yeah.
know, fat shaming, but you know, oh, you know, we shouldn't fat shame, but you know, we shouldn't tell people, hey, you know, cut down on the
Right.
fat,
Right.
right? And that's what he said throughout that first verse. And that first verse is so huss. It's just so
Yeah.
on the nose. It's no, sorry, not on the nose. It's just so blunt. I love it, Dred. That's him kind of saying, "Oh, you know, this is kind of like why you should watch your weight, though." You know, literally, and he just hitting it, right? The second, well, when he started talking about how he should respond to like trans people and whatnot, I know that will
Right.
rub people off the wrong way. Um, I will say though, I did not expect the beat change now, where you get like a sort of a weird remake of Juvenile's Ha that catch me
Yeah.
by surprise though, but
Yeah.
it kind of funny. It kind of
Yeah. Yeah. Like I don't know, like I was
it
like, what
kind of
are we going
cringe.
on? We going for with this, eh? And it's so
Yeah,
weird
but
now because our
yeah,
style now. It's like,
it's
okay,
weird. It kind of cringe, but
a little bit.
it's so entertaining at the same time, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
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 I have warmed up a bit more to Houdini. Now I know,
Okay.
beat is a quiet taste. I know it is, right?
Nah, I
But
just tell you what's track for me.
lyrically, I get where he coming from. It's not a perfect track, mind you, but it is within the vein of those, you know, radio friendly, ridiculous pop rap
Right.
songs that he has done, you know, whether it's you know, Just Lose It or Without
Right.
Me. It's in the vein of that. It's him
Right.
tapping into that whole 2000s Slim Shady s kind of era. That's what he going for, right? But in this case, he kind of talking about, you know, yeah, his place in this, you know, politically correct world. That's what it is, right? And yeah, even the hook itself kind of makes sense too, you know, and especially with the, and now for my last trick, like it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense what he's saying here. But yeah, the overall package is an acquired taste, and I know people will pretty much skip this track. But in the context of the album, I think it works, right?
Okay.
I wouldn't have put it out as a lead single though, but like, all right, now I'll put it like this, right? Before you get into your thoughts of why you hate Houdini, right? Um, I don't mind it being a single. I don't mind it being a single, and you know, it referencing Without Me makes a lot of sense. You're seeing,
Right.
oh, the updated versions. You see Rap Boy, and he's older now, and all that kind of stuff. That makes sense, right? The video in retrospect makes sense, right? Like
Yeah.
visually what he's seeing here, right? But I would have put out another song before this though. Like I would not have made this the lead singer. Cause yeah, I will never forget when that dropped on that Friday. Everybody like,
Yeah.
what's this? You know what I mean? Like we just didn't know what to make of it, right? But I told myself that this was going to be the one goofy track and everything else was gonna be this darker, you know, because you know, I think it's gonna be like Eminem Shona, where yeah,
Right.
Without Me, which was kind of silly and fun, but a majority of everything else on that record was kind of darker, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
thought it was like that. But yeah, I have warmed up to Houdini. I don't think it's a terrible track. It's just I would not have made this the lead single, Jared. I would have put something else before this. But still have this be a single nonetheless to hype the record off, right? But that's just
Okay.
me. But Ricardo, take it
Understandable.
away. Why you still hate Houdini?
Yeah, no, it still don't work for me because like I think if the track came out earlier in the album, it might have worked, but like it just slow down the tempo too much, and for it to come, what track it coming after? Not thing, not Antichrist. Like
Right after Road Rage. So this is track
yeah,
11.
yeah, yeah. So like it's like I Road Rage didn't do much for me. Like I don't hate Road Rage, it's fine, but like really you put it here, like I don't know, they could have put it in another place. Like it just kind of off, and I don't think it that much. So it's just a. I think it's a position in the album. If it was earlier, it would have worked. I feel so. Oh, by the way, I didn't listen to the two bonus tracks.
Oh,
Um,
I'll mention those two.
yeah.
Even though to be honest, there's not really much to talk about, right?
Okay, no.
I do like that right after that you get Guilty Conscience 2, right? Where they get the skit breaking news, which pretty much tells you, oh, this is the damage that you know M's doing through Slim Shady, right? And yeah, you know, Guilty Conscience 2, even though it was not produced by Dre, that was very misleading. Is
Right.
great though in terms of just hammering the themes of the message home, and you really got like, you know, this to me is like the conclusion of the whole story, right? Like this is what the album is leading up to, right? So here after that, this is where you get the third act though, which you know I felt like it just like it wasn't as strong as the first two acts, right? Again, thinking about it as a story, right? But it's still solid tracks for what they were, right? So how
Right.
I see it, for one thing, something that has been criticized of M's work, you know, I would say over the past decade is him, you know, with his collaboration with younger artists, you know, him kind of not trying to keep up with the times, you know, like I know a couple of people accuse him of, you know, always harkening back to the same old stuff, not, even though he has collaborated with younger artists over the years and whatnot, right? But still, this whole idea that it must be about him and must be about him, right? But in the context of the record, I like that it is basically saying that these younger artists are inspired by M. And pretty much everybody who collaborates at this point on are inspired by M, right? And M just kind of comes in like, yeah, you know, and you pretty much say, yes, this you should be inspired by me, you know, because I've been doing this for years now. But I'll tell you all, this is not no easy ride, right? So I love like on the track Head Honcho, which has a great verse from Esmil, right? He mentions about, you know, like you know, I still a great rapper, but you know, he mentions this thing where how he uncle got beat up for trying to steal trying to get back some tricycle or something like that. They're basically saying that, you know, like his rise to fame wasn't easy at all. Like he went through, like he took the bumps now, you know, to become who he is, right? So yeah, even when he calls himself the head honcho, the man earned that right? I love that. I actually like that, right? Temporary, which follows afterwards, is truly heartfelt. This features for me probably the best verse, or sorry, best hook from Skylar Grey, because I never really like cared for her inclusions in like M's albums, but like the hook she put on here, boy,
Yeah.
really got to me, right? I just see the subject matter of it though really hit me too, because yeah, it's pretty much like a sequel to Healy's song. It's just like pretty much
Right.
saying, look, Healy, when I'm gone, play this. And it's just this really powerful, like, look, like, you know, don't feel sad for me, you know, keep moving forward though. And boy, it really hits you. It really hits you in well, not so much hitting in the gut though, but boy, it really tug at the heartstrings though, right? And for one thing, I like that you have a track like this here on this record too, because going back to what the team is, right? M challenging cancel culture. It's like, people will always talk about, the Kims and the
Right.
Kill Yous and all that kind of stuff, but they wouldn't mention Healy's song. They wouldn't mention Mockingbird, right? Where, yeah, the man could like legit be heartfelt and say how much he love his daughter and whatnot, right? The man have a heart, right? And he could put his heart out there, right? But it's easy to talk about the songs where he's talking about killing people and whatnot, right? So I love its inclusion here. And also going back to the whole theme of death and, death to Slim Shady, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it makes sense that he will talk about, when he dies and all that kind of stuff, right? Bad One is solid as well too. This actually has one of the catchiest hooks from White Gold. It's just M just doing what M does, right? That is really a really catchy track, right? Toby, this was a song that took a good while it took a long while for me to warm to it,
Yeah,
but
kind of clever though.
I still not 100% with it though. I think it's just
Yeah.
because of the beat,
Yeah.
but the sentiment of it I really like though, which
Right.
again, going back to what I said before, it's basically two Detroit artists who are clearly inspired by M Dread, spitting their asses off, right? And then M coming back and saying, yeah, this is why I'm so revered, but he also mentions, oh, why I still not in nobody top 5 list. And then I like that he actually calls out Melly Meldred, and that shitty diss track he put out last year, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it's just the beat though, and it's the beat and the hook. The beat and the hook still had a warm to me. Like that whole Spider-Man Toby thing is like, okay, all right. But the sentiment of it, I really do like though. And I also like that they got Baby Tron, which is a signee to Shady Records too. And yeah, Baby Tron was cool. He was cool, even though there were times I swear it was Big Sean, because they have like a similar voice, even though Baby
Right.
Tron's a white guy, whatever, right? And then of course, well, the final track, Somebody Save Me. Really heartfelt way to end the record off too. And they got Jelly Roll, right?
Right.
Well, I think he's rapper tune country singer pretty much, right? And he confessed that he was inspired by M, right? Especially with Jelly Roll's own personal, struggle with drug addiction and whatnot, right?
Right.
And that is where the hook comes from. I believe that's from one of Jelly Roll's previous songs. That Somebody Save Me thing, right? It's pretty much the end of pretty much the end of revival. And from what I read on Genius, it's supposed to be kind of taken. It's kind of reiterating some of the same themes from that final track, right? Where just basically am talking about the pills, and he literally was about to die, well, when he just took a huge amount of pills, right? He just kind of recalling the incident. So in this case, it's him kind of talking about like just basically the regret he'll feel if he lets these demons weaken him and kill him, right? Basically, right? And how his daughters will feel when he's gone and whatnot, right? So but it's a really strong way to end the record. Again, I just wish that that whole section really tied back to what we heard before. But in terms of like showing, oh, this is the side effect of, this whole Slim Shady alter ego. This is what would have happened
Right.
if I had stayed in that identity. I would have killed myself back then, right? And then we wouldn't have this record today. So I like that. I like that it kind of comes full circle, right? As for the last 2 tracks, this is Carrie and Luca, which features 2 Chainz. That one is well, I should say these 2 tracks are okay, but you don't really need to seek them out, to be honest. What's interesting about that Kyrie and Luca track though is that it's produced by my boy DJ Premier. But what he
Okay.
did, he took this track, Move the Crowd from Eric B and Rakim. The same
Right.
beat, but he kind of does his own kind of flip on it, right? So it's just very old school, it's late 80s hip hop beat, right? But it works, right? The problem with it though is that 2 Chainz is on it, and I have no problem with 2 Chainz, but that man first just went on for way too long. It just kind of felt like he was just kind of rambling, to be honest. Like it just didn't fit with it at all, right? And then of course M just pretty much come and body, pretty much body, the whole beat, right? Anyway, but yeah, I didn't need the 2 Chainz feature, but the track itself is okay, I guess. And then the last one, Like My Shit, is fine as well too. You get some really clever bars, some wordplay here or there. But other than that, again, these 2 tracks, you don't really need to seek them out though. I mean, I have them because I sought out the bonus track edition, so I heard those. But pretty much I could just stick with the original album as is, right? And then of course, just in closing, I mean, not surprised. I mean, M is doing what M does, just stellar wordplay. Not that much corny bars though, surprisingly. Like you'll have 1 or 2 corny bars though where you kind of roll your eyes like, ugh, okay, I get it. All right. Like there's one where he say,
Iron Man. I earn man.
Yeah, like the I Earn Man.
Yeah,
There's one
God.
where you say I makeup kit. There's one involving makeup makeup kit though.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So you will have those where you'll kind of cringe a little bit though.
All the corny bars was really in the offensive stuff section anyway. So it's like,
True.
well,
Yes.
yeah,
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 yeah. But in those moments they actually kind of work where yes, he's intentionally trying to piss you off, right? That's what it is, right?
yeah,
But yeah, as a whole though, just as a concept album, it actually works. So it's just for me, I felt the third act, well, I should say the last 5, 6 songs or whatnot, didn't
right,
really fit with what he was going with before. It just kind of felt like, like the 444, like a little 444 preview, if you will, stacked
right,
onto this, right? And pretty much the end of the record was supposed to be Guilty Conscience too, right? I even like
right.
how it
I don't.
ends
Yeah,
there, right?
I felt the guilty conscience too could have been the end, like
Right,
just
that's
coming
what I
for
mean.
peace.
Yeah, like
Right,
that
right,
could have
right,
been the
right. Yeah,
end.
yeah,
But
right.
the thing is an Eminem album, right? So you know you're not gonna get no 40-minute album from. Well, the last time he did that
Well, the
was
thing is,
Kamikaze, right?
I get the
But
feeling, yeah, I get the feeling guilty conscience was meant to be the pivot point, as you say. It's the end
all
act
right,
to, that's how you're supposed to think about it. So, like, but I don't know. This just this morning quarterbacking, but like I felt he could have switched it up, but change it and then make it and then put that at the end as the quote unquote final battle kind of thing. I don't know,
yeah.
but yeah, well,
But as I wrap things up, but I like that he smart. Yeah, I'll give M credit for this, right? He did not outstay his welcome when it came to the Slim Shady stuff, right?
right.
Because
Thank you.
when you hear concept album, you could think, oh, the entire album, the entire minute and 5 minutes is gonna just be him talking about cancel culture and PC police and all that kind of stuff. But no, I like that he kind of reserved himself. He kind of restrained himself. It's like, all right, okay, we do this. Okay, we do the Christopher Reeve thing. Okay, we talk about this. We talk about that. But let me not do so much of it to the point that I just run out of fumes, right? He stopped
Yeah,
at a certain point. He say, okay, cool, that's the end. All right, cool. Now let me go back to my normal self and end the story off. So I appreciate that. It's just I felt that moment, that third act though, was not as strong as the first two, to be honest, right?
yeah.
So yeah, just in overall, solid record nonetheless though. And for me, I'll give this
Yeah,
a
I mean,
lighter
I
decent
thought
four.
that I hated. I thought that I
Yeah,
hated. I thought you'd be like trying too hard. And when it started, it was like that. It was like, okay, I get what you're going for. This like this funny, but you're feeding the kind of old anti-woke fans kind of thing. I thought,
yeah.
in the back of my head, I didn't get it was a concert handle. I wasn't thinking that at
Or
all.
you
I kind
didn't know that? Oh,
no,
okay,
I just
okay.
went in kind of blind. And then eventually he started like, and then it started pivoting. I was like, okay, I think I know what you're going for. And I just listened to it for what it was. I like, okay, I see where you're going for. All right, fine. I get it. And then we're
Yeah.
like, okay. Yeah, and then I read up after it's supposed to be this, that, the other. Like, okay, no problem.
Right, right, yeah. So far I see it's been getting mixed reviews though, so
Right.
I already know that people will either read too much
Which,
into
which,
it
which is not a
and
surprise, to be honest. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I could because
Um
he
yeah,
don't nail the conceit as well as he could. Like the execution of
agreed,
it
yeah.
is not as strong as it could be. Yeah.
But I will give Jack his jacket though. Like it is
Right.
M doing what M does, right? So at the end of the day, M is gonna do what M is gonna do. He's gonna rap the way he wanna rap. He's gonna do the hooks the way he wanna do it. So you may not like Houdini's hook or the song itself, but as M just doing what M does, right? So for me, I went in with that. I have respect for him in terms of just being himself. He's not gonna water himself down or whatnot. Actually, I should say just last thing, points for the intro to Renaissance, where he's basically talking about how people are quick to talk about, oh, this record pales in comparison to that. And he actually mentioned Kendrick's album where he referenced Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Oh, it's not as hard as, this track, Damn was and blah, 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 right? So he's always, and I love what he says about 36 Chambers. Like, oh, somebody will come and say, make some big issue and say 36 Chambers is flawed, right? I mean, sorry, 36 Chambers is like the second best album of all time. That's me, whatever.
Well, that was a joke.
But the
Even that
point,
was a
but yeah,
joke because he's talking
right,
about. Yeah, yeah. So that's part of
yeah,
it. Because he's
yeah,
referencing, he's saying how this is how people would see it now. So he talk about he didn't insult them at all. Like when I was listening to this line, it's like what? And then I'm like, oh, okay, right. That's what he said. He say how no matter what you hear, you'll say that. He's
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about the
yeah.
fans.
And I love how it ends with saying basically how nobody will give you your flowers until they're dead, and I like how it starts
Right,
off from that. That's where the story really kick off with that, right?
right,
Um,
right.
so yeah, I can imagine over the next week or so, or whenever this review comes out, yeah, there will be the people that come and say, oh, it's a step down and it's not so good, and M doesn't know how to be, M's provocative and all that and raunchy and whatnot. But the kind of stuff he's talking about is old, and why he's talking about short people and quadriplegics and bars. Like I know there will be people that'll come and say that the arguments he's talking about are old and worn out by now. But that's kind of the point. It's basically him just in his early 50s right now talking about how he could exist, right? And I thought that he addressed that very well, right, in his own way, right? So love it or hate it, right? But last thing I'll say, and then you'll get to your final thoughts, right? I do feel that there is a 444 coming up. So again,
Okay.
I feel that the next album, which if there is one, right, that will be his 13th album, like Jay-Z, that could be his 444. Right? This is where we could get pretty much the Eminem show side of him, right, where it is more about him and where he's at and how he feels and all that kind of stuff. Now, instead of him having to revert to the evil Slim Shady or the really demented the demented side that we got on the first two records, right? I
Right.
guess we will see when time comes. But people will still speculate whether this one is the last. I personally don't think it will be his last. But if it is, I think that he picked a really really solid team to go out with. I like that he's more or less critiquing himself now. As in the album, he's canceling himself, right? I like that as a concept, right? And something like this existing in this era, make a lot of sense, right? And it comes from probably one of the biggest provocateurs when it comes to rap music, right? So Eminem, right? But yeah, solid album though. But I know people will probably come out of it thinking that is old and garbage or whatever it is. But I stand by my statement where I say this is his best record since MMLP 2. But
Right.
in no way would I put this up there with the the holy trinity, the holy trinity that he already has, right? But that's it. But yeah, Ricardo, your final thoughts on it.
Yeah, I in the same kind of bank with you where I could I understand where you're coming from. I don't think it's as executed as well as it could be, but I get what you're going for, and it's executed well enough for you to at least understand it. And I as I said, because I went in as blind as I could, I didn't know it had a concept. I didn't expect that. So when I went in blind, and then just from listening to that piece together, what you're trying to go for, to me that is evidence that it does work. Enough for me to enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's funny, he tried to get these smokes out here because it's very, very, very subversive in that sense. It's like, okay, look how Christopher Reeve and another what's her name Jenna, no, they call it Clayton Jenna joked her, and so on and
Yeah.
so forth, right? And
Well, I
it's
should
easy.
mention
Oh,
too. Again, sorry for the interruptions, right? I know Okay, so somebody pointed this out though when the album came out on Friday, right? But I know it may people might talk about it a little bit more. The references to Candace Owens, like he make like
right.
two big
That was
references
a
to
right. That's
she.
a little
Yeah.
feud. That's a little feud here, and I think she responded to it already. If she was
Mm,
aware. So I think so. So I know how that going to play out. Yeah, because you talk about a little bit of race stuff and thing with that with her and how she, you could get in a back and forth with it. I haven't followed it, so I don't know. But it's that. It works enough, I think. I don't think it's gonna get a best of the year or anything like that, but it might be an honorable mention, maybe, given what he's trying to do and the nature of his legacy is still it's an interesting and somewhat precarious place, all things considered. But as I say, if he does follow this up with something on the level of 444, then that will validate this in retrospect in a sense, right? Kind of, right? I'm not sure. But I can see people not really caring for it as it is, and I don't know. It works enough for me to enjoy it. So I can't say in good conscience I hate it or anything like that. It's fine. Rated
yeah.
7 out of 10. I don't. uh, it works. I get what you're going for. But you kind of feed in the. Ultimately, I think it might not really work the way he wants it to because people might get the wrong message from it. I think so. I suspect a lot of his fans might only just look at those first 4 tracks in isolation and not really like read into what he's trying to go for. I'm not sure. You'll find.
Yeah, and lastly though, before we move on, I really don't think that this is going to be the last that we'll see of Eminem though. Even though he's 51 now, and Healy's
Right.
already married and whatnot, I think that he is still going to make his name in the hip hop world, right? Look, like just like in literally in the next couple months, LL Cool J is putting out a record us. And it's going to be produced by my boy Q-Tip Hus. That have me excited as all hell, right? But I'm
Right.
saying this too because I never would have imagined the 2020s that we be getting a LL Cool J record, right? Like a new
Yeah, for
Common
real.
album, okay. A Pete Rock collaboration, okay, but the LL Cool J one, come on, right? And I
Yeah,
say this too.
he don't do fucking with his boy the some cop show in LA. Where's the name of the show?
What show is he? He's
Miami,
not
no,
Yes,
CSI LA or
CSI.
whatever.
Yeah. Like we take him,
Yeah,
he's
it's
just
like he doing that now. Like
he gonna be the CSI guy for life, right? Now the man playing
yeah,
on music. Think about that. And
right.
yeah, I mean, fun fact. I mean, LL is probably one of M's biggest inspirations. Right?
Yeah,
I think if I'm not mistaken, yeah, LL made M want to be an MC, right? But yeah, I don't think this will be the last of Eminem though. Even if this is his last record or not, I don't think that'll be the last. He will make his name in the hip hop world, whether he'll be collaborating with new artists or old, like
exactly.
what he did on this record here. Yeah, this is not gonna be the end of him though. As for Slim Shady itself, this is probably the end. But I mean, it's Amjad. So one way, and I love how even on the third act he can address it. Like, I'm still gonna be that provocateur. I'm still gonna talk shit. I'm still gonna piss you up because that's just what I do. That's just me, right? So I love that, right? But yeah, for
And
better or for
it's
worse,
not to
M
say,
is here to stay. You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah, it's not to say that M was ever like never apologetic at any point in his career or anything like that. Remember he did the thing with Elton John way back when.
hmm
Stuff like that. So like that's why I do like I'd not seen this as some kind of wow, Eminem trying to come into terms with himself kind of thing. Like no, like he was always doing that anyway, as it was. So it's fine.
Yeah.